I want to take a minute to respond to this comment that is so damn relatable for those of us that have young children and are juggling careers as mothers. It is really, really, really easy to relate, I think, in a lot of ways to the view that you shared here, which I can just feel my heart feeling so heavy when you say literally no one is taking care of me in any capacity and I am worn out. So if you're a mom watching this video, that can be a vulnerable thing to share online, even to a sea of strangers. So go ahead and throw a comment in here if you're going, girl, you aren't alone. I feel like this too, or I've felt this so many times. Because I think that we lose track as women of just how relatable we actually all are to each other, and we feel so isolated, and because of just the sheer stack of things that are on top of us any given day, trying to juggle careers, kids, households, the whole thing. So freaking good to know we're not alone. So I just want to take a minute and just speak one heart to another heart here on the internet while the rest of the world might watch, and just say that I remember what it feels like to feel that. I remember feeling so personally, for me, was quite resentful towards my husband, because he was the most immediate person for me to say, I need you to care about me the way I want to care about you, the way I care about everybody else in my world who has my back. And I would harbor that against him. And it caused all sorts of it came out in really weird, passive aggressive and dysfunctional ways, as it does. And it was a moment for me that I'm just going to share with you what I've grown through and with, because I want to offer it here, because I don't, as much as I want to there's power in connection, there's also power in sharing what has worked, because so much of what we're all seeking is actually, don't just commiserate with me, help me to see a different way that I can move forward and see something that's working, because what I'm doing isn't working. And that's what I'd like to offer. What I have learned is what I need from other people, what I think is other people's job to give to me, is almost always what I neglect to give my own self. And that's a really interesting perspective, that we want from others what we actually want for ourselves. I have found that there tend to be two camps of people that I coach. One are people who beat themselves up to a pulp with strong inner critics, and they don't need to blame anyone in the outside world. It's always their fucking fault. And there's a lot of healing around that. But there's another kind of person, which is actually the camp that I fall in. And I'm curious if you think you fall into this camp too, just if you want to send it back to me, which is people who sometimes can feel like the world is being done to them, not by themselves, but by the world around them, the people around them, the circumstances around them, and it's not fair. And so often what can come up when we're pointing the finger at who should be taking care of us is also pointing out a pattern of blaming other people for not showing up the way that we want them to. And for me, what I have found the most powerful is to write my grievances out in a journal, naming it, like, so-and-so, you screwed up, you should have done blah, 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 blah. Like, get specific, and then ask myself this awkward question. If I replace their name with my name, does it change how I feel about the list? And it's not perfect, because it's never going to be 100%. But so often what I realize is I'm angry and resentful and bitter because my personal boundaries, my personal standards, my personal expectations are not being met by someone who neglects to read my mind on a daily basis, which puts the ball right back in my camp, right back in my corner. And so while it is easier to look at, just to feel low and just have a moment of just feeling like, you know what, I am going to throw a bit of a party for myself, feeling really shitty in my moment. And that's also okay. Sometimes we're allowed to have moments where it's okay to feel like shit, and let that be okay. But if it becomes too big of a pattern, it can breed a lot of resentment and actually create a lot of pain, versus what do I need to do for me? And so what I've personally grown into is an awareness that my husband does not read my mind, that I am very gifted, as most women are, in anticipating the needs of others. It's actually proven that our brain changes its chemistry after having a child and redistributes portions of our brain towards being able to read nonverbal signals far better after having a baby than we could before. So it's something that we're really naturally good at after becoming mothers, that our husbands will never touch. Like, hands down, I bet you and me, we could read nonverbals like that. And they won't be able to get that for us. But we can do that for us. And that's what is so mind-boggling about diving in headfirst into self-care in a real way, into holding our boundaries, into advocating for our needs and wants, and going against all the cultural pressure to be in servitude to the needs of everyone but ourselves, and somehow feel heroic for that, when in fact it's the very thing that's burying so many of us in just feelings of deep resentment and anger and pain. We are who we've been looking for. By no means am I very brief when I give these talks because I get so into it, but that's the ultimate takeaway, is we are who we've been needing. And at least in the short term, that can create us so much more relief than we have ever been shown or taught. It can radically change the entire relationship when you decide you're the one ultimately responsible for your needs, and not make someone else feel like they're responsible for you. Like, if we're all responsible for ourselves, as much as I was raised to believe that it makes a shitty and selfish world, I have seen the exact opposite unfold in my life and in the lives of the clients that I coach through this exact model. So I'm curious if this lands. It's a very long video, so if you're still watching, I am very grateful that we could connect for this moment, and I hope you don't feel called out, more that called into a different perspective, and see how that feels for you.